Hi, I'm Alan Ross. We're here at the RE Plus Conference and Exposition. We're talking to thought leaders about the future of the energy economy. So join us and enjoy. My next guest is Sabine Bowers. She is with Cargill, and like you can see it, FR3 in Cargill. I'm going to do an advertisement for it. About 12 years ago, I learned about FR3. I learned about esters, and I thought, you know, that's a game changer. Everything can change as a result of because it was in the transformer world. I was with SD Myers, a transformer testing and services company, and ever since I've been passionate about it, and I think it is a game changer. So your role there is what at Cargill?
So I'm the global leader for the renewable energy part of bioindustrial in power systems. What that means is in the transformers, basically.
Okay.
So I develop the renewable energy for this product.
So that was the point. I couldn't say all that because it was too long. It was too long of a title, but it is. You know, there's a title and then there is what you do. So explain what you do as it relates to that. And you can use these props, by the way, because not everybody will understand esters, natural esters, synthetic esters, oil in transformers. Not everybody in the, people that make wind and solar, they go, I don't know what that means. Explain a little bit. Do a show and tell.
Well, thank you. Okay, then, yes, here's show and tell. I brought those samples with me. That's soybean. Okay, so that's a big industry in the US, of course. It's grown widely in America. And when you crush soybean for food purposes, that's what it's grown for food. You get, as a byproduct almost, you get oil. And it's kind of cool because you get 2 for 1.
I know. Yes.
And here is what we then do with this. We take this vegetable oil, we refine it, and we give it a tiny hint of color so that you can distinguish it from mineral oil. That's really why we're selling it. We want the world to change from mineral oil to natural ester, to a vegetable oil, which would make it more sustainable, completely CO2 neutral, because it keeps growing. You harvest and then it grows again. So there's no shortage of it. It's worldwide availability. So it's a cool product.
So part of the negatives of FR3 have been size. You can't, we have these big power transformers, you can't use an ester. Now that has been changing rapidly, because I know there have been some projects where I've seen 2,400 MVA transformers with a natural ester in it, and we were always led to believe that, hey, you couldn't do that. What has Cargill seen as it relates to the growing size in the marketplace?
At the moment, we've got a market share of about 10% in the US, growing very, very fast. And renewable is one of the areas where we're growing very fast. And that's both for the smaller turbines, in the smaller transformers, in the turbines and in the solar plant, but also in the substations that come with all this infrastructure.
Right.
So the growth in size of transformer, there is no limit as far as we can tell. You need to design for those.
And as that kind of people get more comfortable with it, and suddenly that concern about you can't run power transformers, because that's how the oil industry has attacked it. Oh yeah, it's good in the smaller transformers, but it really won't work in the bigger transformers. And every time we put it in a bigger transformer, we don't have a problem. When this first came out, when the FR3 first came out, another thing was, when you do DGA testing or when you do oil sampling, it's not the same. The truth is, every lab in the world now does FR3. It's not the same. In fact, we found some things, and this is I'm a big moisture guy, moisture in transformers. Every 1% increase in moisture cuts the life of a transformer in half.
Yes.
Your product has a capability of almost wicking moisture away, right?
Yes, that's absolutely right. That's a very good way of explaining it. It's like a sponge. It can hold moisture, and then when it has enough, the sponge is full if you want, it starts to absorb this moisture. It works chemically with this moisture, creating acids that then protect the transformer insulation. It actually then works to help that insulation to stay alive for longer. So it extends lifetime of the transformer rather than shortening it when moisture comes along.
So I was part of a study group with FM Global, SD Myers, and Cargill and one other company, I can't remember the other company, but that's what we looked at. Did it really, in fact, did it act as a wicking agent to take out moisture? And the acid that it created, was it a good acid or a bad acid? We found out it was a good acid.
A good acid,
yeah,
yes.
but it's amazing. So not only is it a vegetable-based product, not only it doesn't in a catastrophic failure, which is very rare in transformers, but when you have them, you can't put the fire out. The fire keeps burning. And
Absolutely
some of
right.
the worst situations where plants have burned down because they can't put it out. You can't just bring in a fire truck and hose the thing off because the heat is so intense from a mineral oil, from a mineral oil fire, and that's been FR3. Does that stand for fire retardant 3? Is that what it stands
That's
for?
absolutely what it stands for, yes.
That's a great name.
Well, thank you very much, yes. Well, because there have been other solutions for fire retardant fluids. There, of course, initially Ascarel's PCBs, which were then banned worldwide because of their toxic qualities, and then came along synthetic esters and high molecular weight fluids. But they're very expensive. They have disadvantages that they're still related to mineral oil. And FR3 is the if you want, the latest and most promising solution because it's sustainable.
Yeah.
It can grow and continue to grow.
Yeah. So it sounds like I'm a commercial for the. It's not. Okay, this is an interview. So let's get off of FR3 for a minute. I'm sorry. I want to talk about two things: women in power systems, because you are a woman in power systems, and the idea that this was a male-dominated industry, especially the transformer part
Absolutely.
of it. The renewables part, like RE+, renewable energy part, we see more women than we see in the transformer world. And even though the transformer world is growing, but we see more women in that. Talk about that. Talk to young ladies who are saying, I don't want to get in the power industry, who we want them in the power industry. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool place to be because you've got a lot of growth that hasn't been there before. It's all new. You're breaking new ground all the time. Traditionally, the transformer industry has been very, very, very staid and solid and full of, I'm sorry to say, dinosaurs. But now we've got
These are my contemporaries you're talking about here. Okay.
But now we've got a very young industry, and it's continuously evolving. It's getting more modern, and it's adopting new technologies all the time.
Right.
Now look at all the drones that are sort of checking our equipment in this industry, etc. So it's an industry that is really exciting to be in, and that's why I personally love that industry.
Yeah.
It's been my passion ever since I started working for this ester field technology.
You went to the University of Manchester, I understand.
I did, yeah.
My family lived in Manchester. My brother and his wife, Pat, before they passed away.
Okay.
I was born in Edinburgh, but there was a whole contingent in Manchester, actually outside of Manchester, in Lim. So I'm very well familiar with it. Love the change that's taken place to the city from the time I remember it as a child to what it is today. But that must have been
the cradle of industrialization is Manchester.
Yes, it has.
So yes,
changed a lot. Speaking of change, the renewables industry is it's forcing transformers to go into a bidirectional state. You know, we used to make power. We stepped it down. We stepped it down. We stepped it up. Then we stepped it down. All of these transformers that were made were step-down transformer. They were one-directional, omnidirectional. Today, with EV charging, with solar panels, with everything, transformers have to take power, the utility has to deliver it, and then they have to take other people's power and step it up to the grid.
Yes.
There's that bidirectional part. How does FR3 respond in that for bidirectional? Does it help? Because it's not good for transformers that are not made to send power up to the grid to do that. It's not the way they were made.
It means that there's a lot of stress on the net now.
Yes,
There's super amount of stress on the grid, and just recently a colleague told me that in Southern California the utilities have asked for owners of of electric vehicles not to charge their cars between 5 and 9 o'clock in the evening because that puts too much stress on the grid. So as that stress continues to grow, the infrastructure isn't yet capable of absorbing that stress. FR3 can help to keep the transformers safer for longer. So that it gives it an extra 20% of safety margin so that the transformer doesn't when it overheats, doesn't basically have a shortened life because of that stress. So that's one way it can facilitate the growth of renewable energy.
Okay. But now you brought me back to FR3 being the acolyte. You could run a transformer hotter with FR3 than with mineral oil, right?
Yes.
So the three enemies of a transformer: moisture, we talked about that, heat, that's a positive thing for FR3, and the third one you really can't do anything about is oxygen. So that's a different, that's what creates the problem in a transformer. But heat, moisture, oxygen are the three main enemies of a transformer, and you're addressing two of them that we are capable of addressing.
85% of solar transformers in the US, I have found from samples that have been made available to us in the solar power plants in the US, are filled with FR3. Why is that? Because FR3 can actually absorb or deal better with the harmonics created in solar transformers, for example. And that it causes less of an issue when you use FR3. So there are a lot of benefits that are in addition to the sort of the extra heat and the absorption of moisture in the transformer that help.
I'd love to publish a paper on that, because that's another interesting. Harmonics and transients from renewables go back up into the grid, and they create power quality issues if they're not dealt with, right?
Yes.
And you can't, if you try to deal with them at the end, it comes back up to the grid and it goes to a Panasonic TV manufacturer, right? They can't deal with power quality. Data centers have a tremendous problem with power quality issues.
Absolutely.
So the ability to stop it at the source right as it comes out of a solar, that's or reduce it. I'm not sure we can totally eliminate it.
Yeah.
But reduce it is another benefit of FR3. Now I have a third one. Okay.
Yes.
Heat, moisture, and what I just said.
Well, also the what we just talked about, the grid resilience and the stress it puts on the grid. Well, if you retrofill transformers with FR3, then these transformers are able to support that stress more readily, and that's a growing business for us as well. The retrofill of existing transformers to give them that extra stability and resilience.
I want to end with this, the future. And this is opinion, it's not about FR3, but there seems to be at this conference, RE+, a real excitement. I think in the keynote speech at the beginning, the gentleman said something about inflection point. This is the inflection point. As an engineer, the inflection point to me is a trend line that is suddenly either inflecting down or is inflecting to a new high, a new trend. And I think that's where we are in this industry. What does that mean for you? What does that mean for Cargill and FR3, you think?
Well, for us it means we'll put continuous focus on developing products that are in the sustainable space that feed into that industry. And that is the reason really why I entered this business, because I wanted to be part of a movement that goes away from finite resources and moves towards resources that my kids can still see and live with, and that are benign and not harmful.
And I want you to do that because I have a grandbaby, a first grandbaby, and I want to make the world a better place for her. So not only can you feed the world, you can take a byproduct of feeding the world and you can make it a safer, better, much more sustainable world in the power industry.
Yep.
Well done, Cargill. Well done, FR3.
Thank you, Alan.
Well done, Sabine. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
So all of these interviews that we have conducted have been sponsored by the people behind me. The first one is the Grid Edge Conference and Exposition, which takes place in April 2023 in San Diego. The IEEE PES Grid Edge Conference and Exposition has been a long time in the making. This will be our first one, and it will be a delight. I can already tell you that we've had more papers, more panelists than we could possibly hold, and the conference itself is going to be brilliant. The second organization sponsoring us is H2Scan. H2Scan is ubiquitous in the transformer industry as the best. It's kind of like Intel, it's inside. H2Scan is a hydrogen sensing technology that is patented, that has been around for the last 20 years. It really came on strong as transformer hydrogen became a problem. DGA recognized by IEEE. And I just thank the people at H2 Scan. They are also in electrolyzers, fuel cells, battery storage, but hydrogen safety is incredibly important. They're in refining, in processing, so H2 Scan, thank you. Lastly, RE+. We are at the Renewable Energy Plus Conference and Exposition, and as we close this one out, I want to thank them for allowing us to conduct these interviews here, for allowing us to be part of their incredible conference. It's been enormous. There have been 27,000 people that have attended this conference, and you can tell the energy, the excitement that's taking place within the renewables industry, so thank you, RE+. It's been a delight to do these interviews, and I hope you've enjoyed them.